All right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the library board quarterly library board meeting for October 26th. Oh, wait. I think she's joining right now. Hello, Berna. Are you there?
I'm here.
Perfect. Okay, so looks like we're all here. So I guess we don't have a chair right now. So am I good to start it off, Councilman Graff, or how does that? How should that work technically? Until we get a chair.
Well, you can just take that responsibility until the chair's appointed.
Okay. All right. So first off on our agenda is a roll call. So I'm going to go through. We've got Berna.
Yes.
Present. Okay. Melody.
I am also here.
Okay. Crystal.
Present.
Wait, what?
I am also Crystal. We have two Crystals.
Wait, we do?
I thought
Yeah.
Crystal.
Well, we just have
It's just Crystal.
Oh, okay, with the E.
Oh,
for
Crystal.
now.
I'm sorry. Yes. Crystal Ford.
Present.
Okay. Crystal Larmore. Sorry.
I am also here.
Okay. Perfect. Eric.
I'm here.
And we got Councilman Graff.
Present.
And then Julie. Okay. And then Chase, I'm the library director. I'm also here. To start off, we've got our reports. First from Councilman Graff. Do you have any reports from the City Council for the library board?
No business as it pertains to the library board.
Okay. Oh, and then I guess Melody, you're good. You're taking the minutes then?
Sure am.
Okay, perfect. Just double checking.
Yep.
So now hopping over to my quick report for the library board. Just a couple general announcements and some cool statistics for everyone. So I ran our third quarter statistics for the year, and I also presented this at the City Council meeting. That's from July 1st through October 1st. We averaged 521 visits a day. So 521 unique people coming in and out. So that does not count them leaving. It only counts people who come in. So the machine does count that. So total over the last quarter, we had 39,625 total visits. So roughly the equivalent of the entire population of Tooele coming into the library. Obviously a lot of repeat people, but still good. At the time that I pulled this report, which was at the beginning of October, we had 12,009 persons with active library cards. So that is down from the previous times that you might have heard that number, but that's because we did purge about 3,000 people whose library cards were inactive, that they hadn't used it in more than 3 years. So actually, no, I think it was more than 1 year. So a lot of people that we tried not to purge during COVID because we weren't sure how things were going there, but now we're kind of definitely back in the swing of things. We purged those inactive cards. Of those, we have 697 non-resident cards. So we get a lot of good use from the county. About half of those are Stansbury Park coming down to us. So next
Can I
on.
ask a quick question?
Yes.
I apologize for interrupting.
No, go ahead.
Of the ones that are purged, that doesn't count the ones that use like the Libby app, right?
Yes, that is correct. It does not count. So we only purged them if their card was completely inactive, had no activity for at least a year.
Oh.
And that includes Libby. So either if they use it at all for digital collection or for the physical collection.
Okay.
Or even if they use it just to come in and use our computers. Any of those, basically the card was just collecting dust.
Understand. Thank you.
No, good question. Next on staff news, we are back to being fully staffed. We had our 2 part-time positions that got filled. We had 2 awesome new staff members, Adelie and Candace, and they're both doing awesome. One's working the day shift, one's working the evening shift. I'm sure you'll meet them as you guys come into the library. Next, I kind of brought this up last time, but just kind of keep you guys up to date on kind of some of the building projects and grant projects that I'm working on right now. We only have 1 active grant at this, well, okay, there's technically 2 active grants, but the one is a standard CLEF grant that we get every year, and it's not super special, but I'll talk about that in just a second. The other grant is for our hotspots. So we currently have 25 hotspots available However, I have whittled that down to only 15. I have 10 of them in my office that we deactivated so we didn't have to pay for them, just until maybe patron interest builds up. So if we start getting to the point where the 15 we do have are getting constantly checked out and there's lots of holds, then we'll reactivate those other 10. We just whittled it down just for cost savings purposes, because we as a library are covering 66% of the cost of those, and then the state is covering 33%. And that runs until September of next year. And at that point, it would be 100% on us. So far, we seem to be getting some decent usage. Like I think we're constantly having about 5 of the 15 checked out. So I'll have a better feel for that a couple more months, because we only started having those be checked out just a couple months ago. The other grant is the CLEF grant, and we'll be getting that in January, hopefully. And my plan is with that one, it's going to be about $8,000, give or take. My plan with that grant is to improve our building security in the back. Right now, we just have physical keys that we use to get in the building as far as staff goes, and we want to change that out for a key card access like they have at City Hall. Just that way, it's a lot easier if, for example, a disgruntled employee or like a key goes missing, suddenly we have to face the prospect of spending a ton of money to re-key the building for security concerns. But with a key card, you can just simply deactivate them and then you're good to go. So that's my plan with that grant once that happens in January. And so I'll give you an update on that if and when that happens. We're also looking at some more big picture kind of building projects. I'm looking to hopefully present before the mayor and then hopefully the city council for next fiscal year for the back of the library. I don't know if you've been able to go back there to our book drop. That sidewalk, that's kind of the ramp sidewalk leading up, is approaching to become a tripping hazard, and it looks really bad. And then I want to expand that awning to kind of cover the whole book drop area and make it much easier for staff to get books and stuff, especially when there's a lot of snow. So that's the big project I hope to do with our CapEx funds next year. So we'll have to see, and I'll give you guys updates on that as we go. I also plan to look into xeriscaping and kind of getting estimates on what that would cost, especially as with the drought and all that, and to also utilize the Water Savers grant where we can get a rebate of up to $1.50 a square foot. Wouldn't cover the cost, but that would cover a decent amount of the cost. So
Does that come out of your budget?
yes, so that's where, well, that one, I'm still just seeing if it's going to come out of our regular budget or if it would be a capital expenditure or not. I'm still in that process of seeing, okay, wait, how much is it going to cost? Is it better to do it piecemeal over like 3 or 4 years? Or maybe the city will allow us to do it all at once. All at once would be preferable, but it's a lot more expensive, and that wouldn't be able to come out of our budget because we wouldn't have enough funds for that to do it all at one go. But we'll see. I'll keep you updated on that. The other thing that we started doing is we now sell earbuds to the public at our info desk. So if people come in and they're wanting to use the computer, but they forgot their earbuds at home, they can then pay $1 and we'll sell them an earbud that they can then use and keep. Because while I was shadowing the staff, I had multiple people come in and ask to purchase earbuds, and so that's something that we started doing. And we're also looking into offering faxing services through an e-fax, because we get requests like that. Not a ton, but enough that I'm looking at that too. So, any questions? Okay. Some event highlights up and coming. In November, we had the Haunted Historic Park. I hope you all got a chance to go to that. It was a ton of fun. The kids loved it. And then in November, we have a blood drive coming up on November 20th from 11:30 to 5 here in this very room. So if any of you guys would like to come to that, you can register at the Red Cross website.
What time?
It's from 11:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. So I already signed up myself, but we'd love, obviously, the more blood, the merrier in that case. The few cases where more blood is good, right? And then we've also got, for the kids, we've got story time on Wednesdays, except for Wednesday, November 22nd. For teens and tweens, we have a Potions and Experiments, a tween club, autumn crowns, and then tweens and teens, a closet crafts in the middle of November, and then at the end of November, a teen time of learning how to draw portraits. So all that's on the website and for patrons to be able to register their various teens and tweens for those events. And then today what we're going to be discussing for the lion's share of our meeting is the policy proposal changes that we've discussed and I emailed out to everyone. So hopefully you had a chance to review those. We'll be discussing that later in this meeting. But does anyone have any questions for me? Okay. All right, now it is time for our public comment period. Ma'am, if you want to, you can stand up, and if you could just let me know your name, so I can
My
mark
name
it.
is Marcia Prebstel.
Okay. All right. Just go ahead and let us, if you have 5 minutes, let us know what you need. And
I'm from
All right, what
Stockton.
was the name?
sorry, it's Marcy what?
Marcia Prebstel.
Marcia Prepstill.
You won't be able to spell it, so don't worry.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't spell it right.
I'm from Stockton, and I have one of those non-resident cards. Anyways, I have children that come in all the time. They go over at the high school, and they work at the pool, and this is a nice, safe place. We love the changes that have been made since, well, my daughter said there used to be the police here every week, and so that's really good. She's happy with that. But I had a concern. I had a son I dropped off here, and he walked in, and then he told me the next day, he's like, Mom, there's this book. It's called This Book is Gay. And he's 13, and I was really kind of concerned because I've heard about this book. I haven't talked to him about it, but I was concerned, and I came in, and it was right there by the checkout stand, was saying, this book has been, what did it say? It said, some people don't want you to read this book, maybe you should. And I went, why would people be encouraging? I know it wasn't in the children's section, but it was right there by the checkout stand. It's right where you walk in and see it. And it was very encouraging for, what's in Rainbow. Like, I should look at this book, and if you just look at the vocabulary, it's not nice. It's really not a nice book. And there's another one, Gender Queer. They're just not appropriate for children, for my child to come in and see. I wouldn't want him. I'm grateful he did not pick it up and read it. But it's, I don't mind it being on shelves, but I did like having it on a display saying, come, look at this book, it's been banned. I felt like we wouldn't put that up for like, come drink some alcohol, it's been banned before in the United States. We wouldn't do that. And there's a lot of things. We wouldn't put up a Playboy magazine and say, come look at it. And it's not appropriate for children. I know it's not in the children's section, but it was right there for everyone to see. And that was something that bothered me. And I'm okay with it being on the shelves, just not somewhere where, oh, Mom, what are you doing? Well, what is this book while you're checking out? And that was my concern.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, and if you'd like, we can definitely, you and I meet to discuss this further if you'd like another time. I'm here 9 to 5, generally. So if you wanted to swing by the library, I'd be more than happy to chat with you in a more or less formal sense than in this meeting, if you'd like.
Yeah, I was just concerned that it was broad.
Yeah.
Look at me.
Yeah, and that is one of the things we'll be discussing today is our displays policy. So if you're welcome to, if you wanted to hang around to listen to that, or you and I, we can definitely chat another day if you'd like.
Okay.
Just come in and ask for me and we'll chat.
Okay, I'm happy to.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I really like the library, so.
Thank you. Okay. So seeing no one else coming up to let us know their public comments, I'm going to now close the public comment period, and we'll move on to our discussion items.
Can I ask you a question? What was
Yes.
the title? Does she know?
Yes. So she said this book is gay, and
Oh, that's the title?
yeah, that's that's literally the title, and the other book was that she mentioned was Gender Queer. And like I said, some of our policies that we'll be discussing touch on those kind of things.
Yep.
I want to officially welcome our new board members. We have Julie Bruff, right? I pronounced that correctly, yeah. Bruff. We got Eric Niven and then Crystal Larmore, not be confused with the other Crystal.
Love you, Crystal.
Welcome everybody. And one thing I wanted to run through really fast with everybody while I've got you on the phone is to kind of confirm everyone's terms for their appointments, because that was something that as I was trying to fill our vacancies that there was seemed to be a little bit of confusion about. So let me pull that up super fast here on my computer. And so to confirm, Melody, I show that your term expires 6/30 of 2024. Does that match your understanding? So next year.
How long are the terms?
3-year
Sounds
terms.
good.
Okay.
Sounds
And
good.
then Berna, I show that yours ends on the 30th of June of 2025. So you've got 2 more years.
Okay.
Is that correct? Okay. And then Crystal, same thing. Crystal Ford, same thing, 2025. Does that match kind of your expectation? Okay. And then Eric Niven, yours, and then all three of you, Crystal, Eric, and Julie, are until 2026. So at that point, you are eligible to be reappointed for another term. So you can serve up to 2 terms, and then if you wanted to serve again, you'd have to step down for a year, and then you could be eligible to serve again. So just wanted to kind of clarify that, and then Councilman Graff is here until the City Council says otherwise. So that's my understanding of that. Did anyone have any questions or concerns about that? Okay. All right. Next on the item of business, and Councilman Graff or others who've been here longer than I have will maybe have to help me through this process. We need to elect a new board chair and a new vice chair. What is the process of that? Do we just do a nomination, or can Councilman Graff or anyone else any guidance on what's the procedure for this to do a new chair and new vice chair?
Yeah, nominee, and then we take a vote on the nominees.
Okay. Are there starting with the board chair? Is there any nominations for board chair?
Whoever's been here the longest, most experience.
Melody's already the secretary.
I mean, we could change up that too, right? Like if we wanted to.
Ha ha ha.
I'm a non-voting member, so this.
Can I ask what the responsibilities would be?
Yes, that's a great question. So essentially, the way that I've understood it, and I'm still new at this as well, is the board chair is like the one who I would communicate to help set up the agenda. Also, one of the responsibilities of the board chair will be, and we'll discuss this, is when there is a request for reconsideration of a material, that if someone says, hey, whereas kind of the lady that was here just a second ago, she didn't object to the book being in the library, she was objecting to the display of the book. If someone was objecting to the book being in the library, or maybe they're like, hey, this book is in the YA section, it belongs in the adult section, and they submit that form, the procedure that I proposed would be that I and the board chair, or if the board chair, whoever the library board appoints to do that, whether that's the board chair or someone else, we would each review that material and then submit a recommendation to the board. The board would make a vote, and then I as the library director, make the final decision on does that item actually merit removal from the library or relocation. So they would be an integral part of that. I'm not 100% certain about the other duties of the board, but the chair would also be to help run the meetings, right? Like do all the fun, like we now open the public comment period, we now close it, we nomination, like kind of those procedural things. Is there anyone else in the meeting that knows what else the chair would be responsible for aside from those things?
That sounds pretty concise.
Okay.
So there's not really much outside of the meetings.
A little bit, like communicating with me ahead of time, or maybe if like a concern that the board has with me or with something going on in the library, generally I'd say the chair would be the first point of contact for stuff like that. Because like I said, I'm not a member of the board, but I'm the representative from the library for the board. So that's where I think where the chair would fit in that case. So
I know that when we lost our last director and was in the middle of in our limbo, I guess you could say, she also was the point of contact to the mayor.
Yeah.
good. Thank you. That's a good point. So do we have any nominations, or I guess we could do I don't know, self-nominations are acceptable, but we need to have a chair.
I'm the PTA president already, so I'm having a hard time not saying yes, though. It just doesn't sound like too much outside of a couple emails, maybe meeting once or twice.
And since we moved to doing these meetings quarterly,
Exactly, that's even better.
I feel like those of us who are new
I'll
are
nominate Crystal Ford.
yeah.
okay.
Thanks, Brenna.
So I show that Crystal Ford has been nominated. Does anyone second the nomination?
I'll second. This is Councilman Grant.
Okay. All right, so that nomination is second. Is there any other nominations for library board chair? Coughs do not count. Okay, I see no other nominations for board chair. Shall we take a vote? Okay, so I show that we have Crystal Ford for library board chair. Berna, how do you vote? Yay or nay?
Yay.
Okay. Melody?
I mean, I say yay, but I also know how busy Crystal is, so yeah.
Okay. Crystal? Ford?
Oh, I
Sorry.
am
I'm sorry.
voting.
I need to get better at that.
Yay.
Okay.
There's not normally another Crystal around, am I right
Sorry,
though?
that's what I'm saying.
Eric?
Crystal.
Yay.
It's fine. Just wait together.
Tony?
It's just 1, 2, 3.
Councilman Graff?
I vote yay in both senses of the word.
Okay. And then Crystal Larmore
Yay.
and Julie.
Yay.
Okay. I see the vote is unanimous. Here's your plaque.
Can I have a gold one?
Yeah, we have to try to get a gold one next time. So, okay, our next is we would need to decide on a vice chair, who I'm a little less clear on what the vice chair does. I just assume that, like, if the chair is unavailable or indisposed for any reason or is unable to make it to a meeting, that the vice chair would then act as the chair. Does anyone, and I need to reread the bylaws to clarify that, but that's my understanding of what the vice chair does. Is that everyone else's understanding, or Councilman Graff or Crystal Ford, is that kind of what the vice chair has done in the past?
I don't know if we've had a vice chair in the past year.
Oh, okay.
I don't want
It's up to you.
Like the vice president.
I know. We did.
Who was it, Berna?
I'm trying to remember. It was somebody who left.
Yeah, someone who ghosted us, I think. But
Anyways, but basically what you said about they just are there if the chair can't be there and run the meeting. That's pretty much all that was ever done that I know of.
Are there any nominations for vice chair?
I would be willing to do it.
Okay, well, we have a willing to do it from Eric Niven. Would anyone nominate him then?
I will nominate Eric for vice chair.
Okay.
I will second the
plaque.
nomination.
Well,
I will second that.
Who nominated and seconded?
Crystal Ford and then Crystal Larmore.
Okay.
Okay. Are there any other nominations for vice chair? Okay. I see and hear no other nominations for vice chair. I'll go around the table. Berna, what, yay or nay?
Yay.
Thank you.
Melody.
Yay.
Crystal Ford.
Yay.
Eric Niven.
Yay.
Tony Graff.
Yay.
Crystal Larmore.
Yay.
And Julie.
Yay.
Okay, the vote is unanimous. Here's your plaque.
This was already gold.
Okay, and then
He was already.
I assume Melody is still happy as the secretary. Is that correct?
So happy.
So I guess I turn the conduct of the meeting over to the duly elected
wow.
chair, or I can continue if you would like for just for this meeting, or whichever you prefer.
I could practice.
Okay.
My PTA meetings are pretty informal, so.
Okay.
Okay, it looks like we are moving on to proposal of updated policies and procedures, which is going to be Chase.
Okay, so we got quite the stack of papers in front of you, and all of you should have gotten the emails. And actually, sorry, one thing that I want to clarify about the emails. I remember I needed to talk about this really fast, if you don't mind, before we jump into the policies and procedures. So those of you who are those of you who are not our 3 brand new members, you all, do you have access to your Tooele City email?
I have never been able to get it open, so
Okay.
I need to come meet with Steve. I get it open.
So, because I did have a conversation with our IT department at the city and with the city attorney. I know I've been emailing you guys through your personal emails, but just as a precaution, the attorney did advise and our IT department did advise that we really should be doing all correspondence through the city email accounts. And for Crystal, Larmore, Julie, and Eric, I'm going to set up, after this meeting, we'll do an informal and set up a meeting for you guys to come and get your email accounts. The reason being, if there ever was a member of the public that submitted a grammar request for, hey, what's the library board been talking about? If all the emails are not through the city email account, we would then have to look through your personal emails. And obviously to save potential, and everything would be redacted that wouldn't be relevant. However, some city employee would be tasked with looking through to verify what's applicable to the grammar request or not. So just to keep that in mind, and to save potential embarrassment, it is really important that we do try to use that city email account for all library board related correspondences. So I'll work with you guys and try and help get that moved along, because obviously it's easy for me because it's my job. But I'll work with you guys on that, and we can troubleshoot problems, things like that, and we can get that scheduled. So any questions about that? Okay. So now we can hop into the updated policies and procedures. So the first one, if you look in the back of in your packet that I gave you guys, we have the minor access policy. There's the emergency policy that the mayor put into place that technically goes by the name of, it's the Library Patron Safety Protocol / Facility Entrance Access for Minors. So what is happening is that policy is being done away with these updates. We're getting rid of it, and essentially I'm taking the most important parts of that policy and just incorporating it into our standards of conduct. That way we don't have 2 policies that we need to try and keep up to date, and that way it's all together, one-stop shop. So let's discuss the changes to the standards of conduct policy first, as that's the one that is incorporating those changes from the emergency protocol. And I have talked with the mayor, and she's okay with these proposed changes. Let's review it together. If you guys have any other proposed changes, the city attorney has also reviewed these policies and procedures, and I've incorporated all the suggestions that he made, because he's the one that would ultimately have to defend these in court if needed. So, first off, on page 1 of the Standards of Conduct policy, the only change was in 1.2, where I changed it from children to minors. That's just to kind of help clarify throughout the document that we're referring to minors in general. And any questions, please let me know. I want to go reasonably quickly so we're not here till 9 p.m. But please stop me if you have questions.
Do you need a reference as to what the age group is to define minor?
So I asked the attorney that, and he did say that because we do clarify that in section 9, that it doesn't necessarily need to be clarified right there.
Okay.
So now on to page 2, but great question. On to page 2, section 4, and I apologize for the yellow highlighting. That was just to highlight what has changed. So before, the old standards of conduct said no food or drink allowed, period. End of story. However, due to feedback from staff, we found that was leading to some unpleasant patron interactions where someone just comes in with a water bottle, a securely closed water bottle, and then we tell them that they have to dump it out, or they come in with their coffee, or whatever it might be, and they kind of give us the look of like, really? Like, it's closed, like what's... And it just created unpleasant interactions, and plus we knew people were sneaking it in because we found it in the garbages and stuff like that. So it's one of those things, if we're not, that I was like, I think we should have a little bit of flexibility. So the updated language is that food, snacks, and beverages are generally allowed in the library as long as use is not disruptive to other patrons or library staff. Disruptive uses include strong odors, loud rapper noises, etc. All beverages must be kept in securely closed containers, and patrons must thoroughly clean up after themselves and leave no noticeable food or drink residue, and ensure all trash is put in library trash cans. Patrons may not bring in main food dishes or full meals into the library, only snacks. Food and beverages are not allowed near electronic library equipment. Library-sponsored events may include food and beverage in designated areas at the discretion of authorized library staff. And then for food in the community or the reading rooms, we'll talk about that when we get to that policy. So the intent behind this change is obviously to reduce those negative interactions, be more fair to the patrons, right? If someone wants to bring in a granola bar and give a cheese stick to their kid, like, that's fine as long as they clean up after themselves and they're not making a mess. And then this also will help prevent the issue that we were having as part of the problems last year that led to all the hullabaloo this spring. One of those things was people would bring in literally like multiple pizzas or DoorDash, like they would DoorDash food to the library, leave a huge mess, treat it like a party area, and it was getting out of control because they were doing all this not here in the community room, like out there in the stacks of the library. So it's causing a lot of disruption, big messes. So I hope that this will thread the needle and be a nice middle ground. Does anyone have questions, concerns, or proposed changes or tweaks?
Do we have any wood that could leave drinks and condense marks?
I think we do have some of those, but that hasn't been an issue so far, but that would definitely be something we keep track of as well. I think ours are pretty robust. I would have to go look.
This is not a problem.
Yeah, I don't think we have wood. I think
like this.
Yeah, I think it's all like this.
Yeah.
Without going and double checking it. That's a good question.
How often do the garbages get changed?
Every night.
Yeah.
The garbages do get changed every night except for Wednesday nights. Just that's the part of the contract we have with the janitorial services stuff. And we always, as staff, we can step up and take care of it if someone does have a large
Sneaky.
amount. Or sneaky, yeah. And then that's part of us, as part of the standards of conduct policy, we need to be, we're aware of that, and we can help enforce, hey, that you're being disruptive, et cetera. And we'll talk about that, the enforcement stuff in just a second. Any other questions?
Wasn't there a commercial where they had loud potato chips? Do you remember?
Yeah, right. Yeah. And that's part of it. I mean, if they're making it as, or in the movie theater, right, or whatever, it's like if they're being very loud and disruptive to other patrons, we would just treat that just as a noise issue.
Okay.
Any other questions or concerns? Okay. In section 5, there's just 2 minor changes. We just added vaping, even though that was kind of just to clarify that you also cannot do that in the library. And then under 5 point, the bullet point under 5.1, per the recommendation of the city attorney, I changed it from that specific code reference to just the act itself, because sometimes Utah State likes to go in and change up what specific the code number is, and so I don't want to have to keep track of that. So we just changed it to be, hey, according to this act, that's why. And then same thing under 6.2, that's the same reason for that change, was just so I don't have to keep track of the exact code number.
Should we have a copy of that on file so that the patron can see it?
It's
not our responsibility.
It's accessible on the internet. You can Google that the code or the act itself and relatively quickly look it up.
Okay.
I just want to have to go in and update our policy every year. The legislature updates it. So, any other questions? Okay. All right. So here we get into the more substantive changes. So section 9 is a brand new section that didn't exist in the old standards of conduct, and this is just basically incorporating the policy that's going to be voided, which is the emergency access, the facility access for minors policy. And it just clarifies that minors under the age of 10 must be accompanied and adequately supervised on the premise by a parent, legal guardian, or other responsible adult, except individual accepting responsibility for the minor. If they're between 10 to 18, they have to be adequately accompanied and supervised by a parent or legal guardian, or they have to have a pass on file with us that their parent or legal guardian can fill out. And if they have that pass, then they can come into the library, and that's part of what they can do. And then patrons will be refused entrance to the building if proof of age 18 or older cannot be provided. And so this part in yellow is a change from the old one. Everything else I've read so far is just I transposed that from the other policy. This section says, for minors attending programs, events, or activities in the reading rooms or community room, please refer to section 2.18 and 2.19 of the community and reading room policy. So we'll discuss that part of it when we get to that policy. But the short and fast of it is that essentially if the library-sponsored program, event, or activity, they have to have a pass to attend. If it's an outside group that books the community room for whatever reason, they're responsible to provide adequate supervision. and our policy doesn't, this section of our policy does not apply. So a teenager could come in to an outside group who booked this room without a pass for the duration of the event. We just felt that there was going to be some potential problems, like for example, if the high school football team is doing something in here, that we could see a potential problems if we're policing them, like, wait, this is the community room, like, but then we would say, okay, you can't access the rest of the library without the pass, and you can only do it for the duration of the event or activity. So that's the reason behind that, and we'll read that specific language when we get to the community and reading room policy. But any questions about section 9 or concerns?
Are you gonna actively monitor that?
Yeah, we do.
So you know that by sight, the people, the kids that have parent
So-
authorization on file?
how we're managing it is, if a group comes in, a family comes in, we don't stop them because clearly there's adult or legal guardian supervising. If there's a question about it, like a person comes in, we're like, are they 18 or older or not? We ask them, hey, can you provide either proof that you're 18 or do you have a pass? Or if people that are clearly minors attempt to enter the library, we ask them for a pass. So we're not checking every single person that comes in, but we are actively monitoring as much as we can without stopping every single person.
There's always a librarian at the front desk
Yes.
now.
And we always have a librarian right here at the circ desk, which is right at the entrance, and they're really good about it. If someone tries to walk in and say, hey, and I mean, we have had kids that snuck in that kind of saw a mom and dad and they kind of made themselves look like they joined the group, but we see a lot of the same people, so we have caught those individuals most of the time.
I imagine you'll get very used to the people that come in on a regular basis.
Yes. And the big troublemakers from before this spring, word's gotten out that we're strict, and so we've had hardly any issues since this policy was put into place. Any other questions? Okay, and then so under section 10, and the changes in this one are just changes to make sure that the language in section 10 and the language in section 9 match. Because before, under the old ones, there was a couple things where you could argue that they were saying two different things. So just to ensure there was zero confusion, like what's a child, what's a minor, like that's part of the thing. We cleaned this up so it's direct. So we said minors are encouraged, and none of the things in red are changes. It's just the clarifications and or what was in the policy before. Just basically, it's that we don't assume responsibility for minors. You can't use this as an alternative to daycare, things like that. That if we do find a minor child who's under the age of 10, who's under the age of 10 unaccompanied, we reserve the right to call the authorities if we can't locate that child's guardian. We actually had that happen, where mom dropped off her 7-year-old, and luckily we realized it was only like a couple. We were like, wait a second, where did that kid's mom go? And she had left to go run some errands. And so, but we did manage to get a hold of her. Tell her she needs to come back. She can't do that. So it haven't been an issue. It only happened one time. Yeah, I'm like, and like, go run free, child.
Yeah.
Any questions or concerns about section 10? Okay. So section 11, the things in yellow are things that are truly different. Everything else that's in red is just imported from the emergency policy. So I'll discuss the items in yellow. So I changed library management to library administration, just to have that same language across the board with the city, the word they like to use. 11.3, it used to say may be expelled, but then in order to give us more flexibility, I changed it to say subject to the consequences listed under 11.5. And then 11.4, the structure of the sentence is the same, but I just clarified that we said library personnel have the responsibility to inform patrons of conduct that violates library policy, and library personnel will document major violations. It used to say will document expulsions, but I wanted to change it to say major violations. And then 11.5, it's just same thing, just kind of a clarification that all persons who are refusing to cease minor policy violations, who commit major policy violations, who commit crimes, who threaten, insult, or abuse library personnel or patrons, will be reported to library administration and then may be subject to either suspension, expulsion, possible law enforcement, or liability for the damages. I don't deliberately define minor versus major in this policy to allow us a little bit of flexibility. But in general, a major policy violation would be something that is disruptive to staff or patrons. A minor one is if someone's talking a little loud on the phone, that would be a minor. However, if we go up to them, we say, hey, you need to turn down the volume or whatever, and then they start giving attitude or refusing to comply, then that's where it would maybe escalate to a major. Because that was a little bit unclear under the old standards of conduct, so I just clarified that here. And then 11.6, all written warnings, suspensions, and expulsions will be reviewed by library administration. So the direction that I've given to the staff is, in that example, if someone's talking a little loud on the phone, if we go up to them and say, hey, can you please turn down, and they're, oh, I'm sorry, and they hang up or they immediately comply, that's not a documentable offense. If they then refuse, or if they are being significantly disruptive, they're yelling, we tell them to tone it down and they refuse, then I've been telling the staff they need to document those instances. And then I review them and ensure that we're fairly enforcing the policy. And we go up kind of that consequence ladder, right? A verbal warning, a written warning, if after a written warning, if they're still persisting or they're committing other major violations, that would be, okay, you're suspended from the library for a month and a half. Okay, if you come back and you do it again, okay, you're now indefinitely expelled. You can appeal that decision to me, and we can talk about it. And then documentation of, and this one's changed from the other one where it said that we were required to give documentation of the expulsion. I changed it to say documentation of the expulsion will be made available because I foresaw, I'm like, if someone's getting arrested, I don't want to have to try and chase them down and say, hey, here's the documentation. Like, they can come get the documentation if they want, but I don't want to have to try and chase them down for it. And then the other two things were in the old policy as well. And then, so I know section 11 has a lot. Is there any questions, concerns, or issues with that section?
How does your library staff know, like, if I was just to walk in again, like what flags them to know that I've been expelled for a month?
So we have few enough expulsions that I have a log that I keep for the staff that all the staff can access. And what we do is if we have somebody that, for example, we had an incident this last week that I in a public meeting I don't want to get into details with, but we did end up suspending a patron until December 1st. So what I did was I got his picture, a description of the event, we put it up in the staff break room, and we discussed it at staff meeting, and he was a regular, so the staff knew him. So that's how we kind of keep track of it. It's not a bulletproof system, but it's as good as I think we can reasonably do.
Yeah.
So, okay. Any other questions, concerns, or comments? Okay. Section 12. I changed it to say anyone who is indefinitely expelled from the library. I removed the 72 hours or longer and the within 5 business days of how long they have to appeal, because that way it gives us more flexibility that if someone's indefinitely expelled. So, for example, our patron, he cannot appeal his 1 month and a half, his suspension until December 1st. He can't appeal that. If he does something else that gets him indefinitely expelled, that he can appeal. And then before it used to say they had to appeal within 5 business days. After a good long discussion with the mayor, we took that out because I can foresee someone being a dumb teenager or a dumb adult who does something they deeply regret later, and they come back 5 years from now and saying, hey, I was dumb when I was 16, I'm sorry, I'd like to use the library. Then that's where I, as the director, can have that conversation and make that call, like, let's have you participate in the library again. So that way we're trying to balance justice and mercy at the same time with this policy. So, any questions, concerns about that? Okay. And that's all the changes. So what, I guess we, now that we have a chair, we will fill out the paperwork. So the paperwork isn't quite up to date. After this meeting, I'll get an updated version of these that doesn't have all the changes that we can all sign, you guys can all sign, and then I can present them to the mayor for her final signature. I guess for the purpose of this policy, I'm not sure, I guess, is there any questions, concerns about the policy or the suggested changes? Okay, so let's go down the line. I guess I can't make the motion, I'm not on the board, but make a motion to approve these changes in the policy?
I don't know what to say.
Yeah, so Councilman Graff, is that how we would do it? Like, if someone say we motion to approve this policy, or how does that work?
Define it.
Are you still there?
So what I say, can I get a motion to approve this document? Okay.
And I'll say, I second, all right, give me a motion for the Tooele City Public Library Standards of Conduct Policy.
Okay. Okay, can I get a motion to approve the revised version of the Tooele City Public Library Standard of Conduct Policy?
I move that we accept this Tooele City Library Standards of Conduct Policy.
Okay, can I get a second?
I'll second.
I'll second.
Okay.
Thanks, Brenna.
So someone's a third.
Okay. Okay, and then we do a vote. So,
Can we do an all yay and nay?
yeah, we can do
Okay,
that.
okay. All in favor, say yay.
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 Yay!
Any opposed? All right. It has officially passed our vote.
So I'll get, and then, like I said, after this, I'll get an official version of it that we can all sign, and then I guess,
we can just drop by and sign it once you.
or, well, we can hurry and sign right
Oh,
after
you're
this
gonna
meeting.
print it
I
tonight?
can hurry and print it.
Okay.
I just have to do like 2 things on the document and then.
Sure.
Oh,
Do you want my name on it?
Julie's name's not on
Wait,
there.
your
Crystal's
name's
is
not
on
on
there
there?
twice.
What?
She's that
I just looked
important.
down
We need
and
two
Oh,
signatures.
that was my bad. I apologize, Julie.
We need one here
Wow,
and
Crystal
over here,
Fortune.
please.
We just signed
Twice
for
the
me.
authority.
And up here under board chair now. We also
Yes, I need to
Crystal's
add,
signature
yes.
there.
And then, do those of you who are on the call, do you give us permission to do a remote signature on this document to sign on your behalf?
This is Councilman Gold.
Sorry, so Councilman
I
Graff,
was on.
Yes, thank you.
Melody,
Yep,
and Berna.
Yes?
Okay. So,
Chase, it is on all of them.
yeah,
Okay, just
Did
so
you-
you're
did you
aware.
do a
it
copy?
is-
I did a
Paste.
copy and paste, and thus the mistake was replicated many times. Okay. All right. So next one, let's do the circulation policy, as that one's going to be the easiest one, I think. So circulation policy is policy number 2. This one just has a couple minor changes. It looks like there's some big changes, but those are actually just due to a documentation mistake when I printed this out. In section 1, we removed the old section 1.6.2 and changed it to say that they need to refer to section 9.2 to determine when we would block somebody's car. And I'll show you the reason for that in just a second. And then under 2.0, none of everything in red down to where it says sets is actually not supposed to be in red. Those were changed in the original document. I changed them back, and I should have gone through and hit accept changes. But that was a recent mistake that I discovered today, and that was just due to I was accidentally using the wrong version of this document. So I apologize for that. So those are not changes. But what are changes is where it says we're adding sets and device/technology items where they have a loan period of 10 days, and then when you can have a maximum of 3 out at one time for sets, and a device technology item is you only can have 1 out at a time. Any questions or concerns about those 2 things? On page number 2, that 2.3 section is not in the current reading. Like I said, I was accidentally using the wrong document on here, so that was removed just to keep it in compliance with our current document. And then in section 7, this was an error from the previous active document where it was accidentally referring people to the wrong section. It was supposed to be section 9, not section 7. Oh, I apologize. Section 3, I changed it from saying how long we will hold items available when a person places a hold. We hold it for 3 library work days, not 1. That was just a mistake.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that change.
Yes, it used to be 1 a long time ago, but the current policy still says 1, but we've been doing 3 for a long time, and I found that mistake when I was reviewing these. And then on page 3, this is just to kind of clarify the language because in section 8 it was unclear before, and the wording was very clunky. So I just cleaned up the wording to say It is the intent of the library to encourage cardholders to replace or return a library item rather than collect payment for a library item. However, this is up to the patron whether they return or replace the item or remit payment to the library. And then under 8.1, when a cardholder opts to replace a lost item, the replacements will only be accepted if the item is new in original packaging and in the same format as the lost item. So at the library, we don't charge late fees, as those don't do anything and they just make everybody mad. But we do charge people if they just don't return the item. And this is where we say, okay, you can either pay the cost of the item, or if it got damaged or something, they can buy a new version of the item and bring that in. And that counts. So this is just saying people have those two options, to either outright pay for the item or replace it with a brand new version of the item. So,
Regardless of the age of the item.
regardless of the age of the item, yes. Although we do like older books and stuff, generally the cost that we charge a patron for those is lower than like a brand new item.
Because you can get on eBay, you can get a replacement that's pretty good if it's fine
Yes,
condition.
and that's where we do kind of that. We thought about that, but the problem is that a lot of times you'll see, oh, it's in fine condition, and then you get the item and it's actually like, it looks fine. Then you turn one page and it's got crayon or marker. So just to avoid having to make that judgment call or that argument with a patron of, no, we think it's not acceptable, but no, it looks acceptable. Like, we just said it has to be a new item. So mostly if it's going to be an old item, generally we'll just say you pay for it. But we also don't charge as much for an old item versus a new item. Other questions, concerns? And then the other change was in section 9.2, where we just added a 9.2.1 that says that if a devices and technology items will be billed to the patron on the first calendar day overdue, and circulation privileges will be blocked. So whereas for books, someone can keep checking out a book even if they have a book overdue for up to 14 days after it's due. However, if they have a hotspot or a technology item, then you're billed the thing the day it is overdue. Sorry. So like a hotspot, if someone goes 1 day overdue, we deactivate the hotspot and immediately charge it just because there's the expense of those items. It's like over $100, right? Or even if we get to the point where something maybe we'll do in the future is people can check out computers or something or other future technology items, we can't have them be weeks out. It has to be day one, you've got to bring it back in. So, any questions about any of those couple little changes in this policy? Okay.
I was going to say,
Oh, you inhaled.
yeah, because I took notes on this
Okay,
stuff.
yeah.
I doubt this will be needed, but I imagine if I were in a situation where I had to replace something, or it's been over 30 days, I would like to know the fees that I'm going to be charged by
Yes.
the attorneys and things like that.
Yeah, so the attorney fee is $30. It's on I think it's on the fee schedule for the attorney's office.
Okay.
We just don't define it in the policy because that way we refer them to the fee schedule.
Okay, this is scary.
We-
I'm not going to lose an item, trust me.
No, wait.
I replaced one.
As
It is
far as
actually-
I've almost gone to collections before. It's fine.
It's actually very reasonably priced. We actually did pay for an item that was lost,
I had
and
to as
then
well.
we found it.
And
And I
you
brought
can-
it in and was like, what do you want me to do? And she said, we'll take it and the city will mail you. It was like a $7 check. And I was like,
Yeah, no,
Great.
and that does. I think it's in there that we do refund. Yeah, we do refund if people do bring in. We
right. It
yeah.
was just, it was not super expensive. And that made more sense than trying to track.
And we do
one
not
day.
we do not send the police out after people.
Oh, well, then I'm okay.
I mean,
It will eventually go to collections, though, if you don't pay it.
and the way that I understand is if someone gets arrested for something else and they then see, hey, you also owe this at a library, I think they take care of that point. I'm not 100% certain. That's still learning.
That's when they come. Sorry to disrupt.
No, you're fine. You're fine. Okay. Chair, do you wish to do a
Okay.
motion for this one?
Can I get a motion to approve the Tooele City Public Library circulation policy update?
I will make the motion to approve.
Thank you, Crystal. She can't see who you
I'll
are.
second it.
Thank you.
Eric.
Thank you, Eric.
Eric, yeah.
We get to the next one. We got
Then call for a vote? Or?
Oh, yes. Can we please get a vote on that? All in favor?
I,
Yay.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
What that means.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks for bearing with me, guys. We're getting there. So on the collection development policy, the only change on page 1 is just just added a the where it made sense, just grammar fix. On page 2, section 2.9, adding in a paragraph, in 2.6, adding another the for clarification for grammar. And then 2.9, an update stating that those with an active Tooele City Library card whose account is in good standing may submit purchase requests to add to the library's resources through the library's online catalog page or through the request for purchase and interlibrary loan form. The library director will review the request and may accept or reject the request according to the guidelines in this collection development policy.
Is this anything, audiobook, something
Yes.
on Libby, physical
Any.
book? Okay.
Because the issue that came to mind when I was at my Utah Public Library Directors Conference was some libraries were getting spammed purchase requests by people like indie authors, for example, or authors that didn't go to that library, didn't use the library.
That's good.
They would like send tons of requests. And
Yeah, I know.
this is meant to just clarify, no, you have to have a library card. Like, why are you submitting a purchase request if you're not actively using the library?
Is this something that they can do online?
Yes.
To submit
So online, we used to have a contact us page that was like, it was a purchase. So there's 2 ways. You could either fill out a form or go onto the catalog page, and there was like a thing that you would fill out 5 lines. The problem I was having is that system was very clunky for me as the director to review. So I did make a tweak to that. So I took the purchase request form, made it a fillable PDF, and then now that is when there's a link on the catalog page and on the library's main page that you click policies and forms, and it's right there that the patron can either print it out, they can pick up one here at the library, and then they can either fill it out completely on their computer as a fillable PDF, and they can either email me directly or just bring it into the library. So to kind of streamline that, so that way I'm not having to check, here's my pile of papers, and I have to go into the system and review all and it was taking me way long to do that, so I did make that tweak. But it is available online or here in the library. So. Questions, concerns about that? Okay. On page 3, just a couple tweaks for grammar purposes, and then the one in 8.2 is just to kind of help ensure the same language is being used of library resources, not just library materials. Mostly a semantics thing, but good nonetheless. So now, here's where the big change is under section 9. And all of these things that were under section 9 used to be on the request for reconsideration form. However, it seemed more like a procedure policy, so I felt it was inappropriate to be on a form. It needed to be in our policy. Because a form was something I just make, and that didn't seem right, so we're just formalizing the process and made some tweaks to it, so I just want to review that. So to clarify, reconsideration of or removal of physical library resources. I only have a very limited control of what's on Libby. I can add to Libby, and that's about it. I can't remove, that's all managed through the Utah State Library, stuff like that. So this is to clarify, we only deal with physical library resources, not anything digital, for obvious reasons. 9.1 just added to state that reconsideration of resources defined as moving that resource from one section of the library to another. Removal is making it completely unavailable. 9.2, that part in red is not a change. I just condensed 2 sections together. It used to be, that whole red area used to be a 9.3, but I just made them all one. 9.3 is a new section, and it says that requests for reconsideration or removal of resources in the physical collection may only be made by a resident of Tooele City or those who hold an active Tooele City library card in good standing. The reconsideration removal review process extends only to those resources that were selected by the Tooele City Library as a new purchase or by donation. The library director will review patron concerns or objections to resources within its collection when submitted in writing on the form available at the library or online. So this is to, other libraries have had issues of getting spammed, lots of reconsideration requests by individuals or even organizations that did not use the library or live in the library's service area. Why should someone in Wyoming care what we have on our library bookshelf, right? Like, that's the idea with this, is the same thing, clarify, you have to either be paying into the library as a Tooele City citizen or have an active library card. Questions so far? And this form, I was waiting, it's available here at the library, but it's not available online yet, because I wanted to have this meeting first to vote on this updated policy, and then that one will also be available as a fillable PDF online, or in the library. So then the procedure, let's say we do have someone that decides to fill out that form, what's the process? The process would go as follows. The party seeking reconsideration or removal of a physical library resource receives a copy of the Tooele City Library's collection development policy and the request for reconsideration or removal of a physical library resource form. So they get both this document and the form itself. Then they must read, view, or listen to all or substantial portions of the work before the resource may receive formal consideration. They have to have actually read it, right? Then they let me know, they bring in that resource or let us know what the resource is, and the completed form are submitted to me, the library director. I would then work with the chair of the library board or the designee assigned by the library board. Me and whoever that individual is would then fully review the form and the resource. And after full review of the request and the resource, the library director and the member of the library board will determine whether the resource does merit relocation or removal according to the standards of our collection development policy. Then me and that individual, we then would submit that recommendation, would be submitted to me, the library director, and I would present our findings at a board meeting. And the library board will then vote on the recommendation, and you'd submit it kind of back to me, and then I would then make the final decision on whether the resource merits relocation or removal. Under the old wording, we did have it, the library board made the final decision. However, after consulting with the attorney, since the library board is an advisory board, not a governing board, there were questions about that's not in city code that the library board can make those kind of decisions, and that technically that if there's a problem in the library, I'm the library director, I should take the heat, right? That's my job. And ultimately, if they really don't like me, then the mayor's the boss, and then obviously the voters of Tooele, thus the cycle of accountability. So that's the reason that has been changed to state that the library director makes that final decision. Although I don't foresee a world where you guys say one thing and I say something else. I can't even think about that. I highly doubt that would ever happen. 9.4.5 says the library director will inform the library board and the party seeking reconsideration or removal of the decision, which shall be final. And then a resource will go through the reconsideration or removal process only once within a 3-year period unless the content has undergone major revisions, just to prevent spamming requests and making us, hey, do it again, right? So that was a lot. Questions, concerns, or comments?
Do they have to go through this process if they just want to change the location of the presentation, or is that further?
So the lady that talked, that was for a display. That's a separate policy.
Okay.
Because the reconsideration is like we either remove it from the collection, or I'm changing the classification of this book from a YA book to an adult book or junior. Or
I just didn't know what she would need to fill out.
No, so her complaint wouldn't be a form. Her complaint would just be a normal complaint.
Okay.
And to clarify, she did email me. I did reply to the email, told her she can come here or we can have a discussion, and she never replied to the email, so I didn't think she was coming, but she came, so.
I think it's cool. It's never happened before.
So.
Glad we were here for that.
Okay. So,
Can I ask a question?
yes, of course.
On that book, where was it on display at?
Oh, so yeah, to clarify that, so every year the American Library Association, they do like a banned book week. So what that is, I disagree with the naming of it on a personal level. I think it's a little misleading, but the idea is that they take data from all the libraries in the United States of people who put in formal challenges. So the form that we just discussed, and they count up like, okay, this book has had that form filled out for that book X amount of times. And how does that compare to all the other books? So then what they do is they take the top 10 books and then they do a thing that you can do a display for it. And this is something the library has done every year up until this year, and it's the first week of October. For that 1 week, those books are put on display in the adult section of the library. So right as you come into the library and you walk past the circulation desk, you have the kind of new items area, the DVDs, videos, and then right behind that is the adult section, and then right to the right of it. So that display is right there next to the new items area.
That round table.
So not the round table, it's on the shelves right by the pillar.
Oh, okay.
So
Right,
If
yeah.
you were checking out, turn around.
So let me get
okay,
this straight. The ones that catch the most flack, they want to premiere?
Yeah, that's the point of it, is to say these are the top 10 most challenged books.
Well,
Yeah, so that's,
I don't
and,
understand the rationale.
yeah, and we'll talk more about that in just a second when we get to the displays,
Okay,
decorations
sorry.
and displays policy. No, but it's a good question. So that's the location. It was not in the YA section, the kids area, or the junior. It was the videos / the adult section, because the adult section is right behind there. And that's kind of the purpose of one of the new policies I proposed, is to help see how do we address these kind of situations with displays, and so we'll talk about that in just a second. But does that answer your question?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how that, if any of that, I understand that display, you want to discuss it in display, but is there anything in this section that needs to be addressed as far as that's concerned?
Not in this case, because she wasn't advocating for it to be removed or even relocated in the library. She was just not liking that it was on display at all.
Okay, got it, understand.
Yeah. Whereas this policy would come into play if she's like, that needs to be out of the library. That's where this would, or even, hey, that book's in the YA section, it should be in the adult kind of thing. So, okay. Any other good questions or concerns with this one? Okay. Chair?
Okay. Can I get a motion to approve the Tooele City Public Library Collection Development Policy Update?
I motion to approve the collection development policy.
Thank you, Julie.
I will second the motion.
Thank you, Crystal. Can we get a vote? All in favor, say yay.
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 Okay.
Any opposed? Okay.
Someone sounds like they're in a submarine.
Okay. Sweet. All right. Thanks for putting up with me, guys. I promise the future meetings will have less. Hopefully. Oh, okay. I can't promise that, but hopefully. So first off, let's do the programs policy, as this one's probably the easiest and most straightforward. So this one has no red lines in it because it's an entirely brand new policy. One of the big things that was emphasized at the Public Library Directors Conference was be proactive with your policies, don't be reactive. Try and think of all the situations that could come up and make sure you have a policy for it, because where libraries have gotten in trouble is when decisions were made without a policy. So that's I want to avoid that as the director. So here we have the programs policy. The mission statement is that the Tooele City Public Library strives to provide for the community programs and activities to further promote and extend the collection, services, goals, and mission of the library. The policy objective is the Tooele City Library provides programs for children, tweens, teens, young adults, and adults. Programs are meant to provide community engagement with the library and its resources, while also providing quality educational benefits to the patrons. This policy covers only programs and events that are directly sponsored by the Tooele City Library. Outside groups may reserve the library's reading or community rooms to host their own events and programs that are not sponsored or affiliated with this Tooele City Library, and see the community reading room policy for that. So 1.0, the responsibility. Library programs are generally implemented by the library programs team with the assistance of library technicians as needed, who operate under the direction of the library director. Section 2.0, library-sponsored events and programs. The library programs team will plan programs under the direction of the library director. Care will be taken to ensure that programs are tailored appropriately in content and style according to the age group that is targeted by the program. And just to specify, like, we do have children is younger than 9, tweens is 9 to 12, teens is 13 to 18, and then and young adults in there with teens. That generally young adults would be maybe more like 14, 15 or 16 or into 18, and then adults, obviously adults. So we do have those broken down, and we post those that patrons can't register, like a tween can't come to a YA activity or vice versa. 2.3, programs, and right here. Programs that are targeted for specific age groups will be advertised as such. Patrons that are not in the advertised age range may not register for the program. So generally those programs also require registration, like we're doing one on November 2nd for teens and tweens of a potion making night. And that one you have to register, and like an 8-year-old would not be able to register for that, for example. Or an adult would not be able to register for that. The Tooele City Library Standards of Conduct Policy applies to all participant presenters in library programs. Any questions or concerns with page 1 of this document? And this is meant to formalize what we're already doing, essentially, and mostly, for all 3 of these, actually. Okay? Section 3, third-party volunteers or vendors. Depending on the planned programs, the program's lead may, under the direction of the library director, involve third parties or vendors to assist with putting on programs. The library director, in coordination with the program's lead, the volunteers, and the vendors, will ensure that the content and style of their part in the programs are appropriately tailored according to the age group that the program is targeted to. Just to make sure, just to clarify that we try to make sure that the people who are coming in to assist with programs are doing so in a way that's consistent with the library standards and the community standards. 3.2, with the approval of the library director, the volunteer or contracted vendor may distribute promotional or informational materials during or after the program. However, no transaction or sales of items or services may take place during the program or immediately after the program or on library property. If they want to do that, they can do that somewhere else. Like we bring in a local business person to maybe show something about whatever their craft is, right? They can have promotional materials, they can have information, but you can't whip out the credit card machine and start using the library as a place to do sales. The only exceptions may be granted this clause at the discretion of the library director is if the third party is a published author doing a book signing or event. Because obviously, while it's what they come, they're trying to sell their book. So, and I feel like that fits enough with what libraries are for, that that's the one exception that we can grant in this case. Does anyone have any questions or concerns?
Okay.
Okay.
Can I get a motion to approve the Tooele City Public Library Programs Policy new document?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Berna. Can I get a second to that motion? Thank you, Eric. Can we please get a vote? All in favor, say yay.
Yay.
Any opposed?
Yay.
Okay.
All right, now on to the decorations and displays policy. Policy number 8. Mission statement. The Tooele City Public Library strives to present a positive aesthetic experience for patrons and provide special area displays that highlight the library's collection. Policy objective. The Tooele City Library provides special area displays in the library to highlight the library's collection and direct patron attention to a variety of materials. The decorations and displays policy is intended to ensure that the library continues to be aesthetically pleasing and ensure displays are relevant to the library's purpose. Number 1, responsibility. 1.1, selection of decorations and displays in the library is the responsibility of the library director, who operates within the framework of policies approved by the mayor. The library director may authorize staff to assist. And that's how it's kind of currently going. I don't do the displays personally, but we do have some of our library technicians that are designated the marketing team, and they generally do the displays like, here's all the Halloween books, and here's kind of, we did one that was like all the books that had a red cover. And that was shockingly popular. Like, I mean, we were burning through those books pretty quick. No pun intended. But stuff like that. Or even the one that the lady came today to talk about, that was also the marketing team put that together. So first off, section 2, decorations. Easy. Care will be taken to ensure decorations to ensure they are tasteful and consistent with library purposes and policies. We're not going to hopefully do anything that would be overbearing or inappropriate in terms of decorations. Keeping it simple. Now for printed material displays. So this is not referring to books. This is referring to kind of the billboard area where we post like, hey, what's going on in the community stuff. Printed material displays. Members of the public may contact the library director to have printed materials, flyers, brochures, etc. posted or displayed within the library in designated spots at any time prior to the date of the event. Except as otherwise provided in these guidelines, the library director will approve the posting or display of printed materials that contain information on cultural or educational activities or of general interest to the community. The library director reserves the right to limit the number of printed materials to be posted or displayed for a single event on a specific topic or on a specific topic due to space constraints. Someone can't bring in 10 flyers and hog the whole section. Section 3.4. These materials should adhere to the following criteria: be of notable interest to the community, relate to or complement a library program, partnership, or strategic plan, or highlight or stimulate use of library resources. The Tooele City Library will not post or display the following: advertising or promotional materials of a profit-making or commercial entity or for the sale of items, partisan, political, election, or campaign materials promoting a specific candidate, issue, or party, obscene materials as defined by the State of Utah Code, or materials not relevant to the library's stated purposes or policies. Posting of printed material in the library in no way constitutes endorsement by the Tooele City Library or Tooele City of the policies or beliefs of the organization, individual, or event advertised. No advertisement or announcement implying such endorsement is permitted. So that was a lot in Section 3. I think it's relatively straightforward. I cannibalized the Salt Lake City Library's policies to kind of make my outline for these. And that's where I kind of got the language and the formatting for a lot of it. Any questions about Section 3?
I noticed we had brochures for Erda's Pumpkin Days.
Yeah. So yeah, that'd be one of those things that would fall under this. Like, how do I
There we
determine?
go.
I have one.
Oh, yeah.
Because I didn't know if that was a profit venture.
I don't know. That's a good
Because
question.
it's,
I
they
thought.
sell to vendors.
Doesn't
Well-
say it's free.
It is free entry, open to the public, but there are local vendors, and I wonder if you pay because there's a pumpkin patch. I'm,
So I don't
I'm
know.
not sure how, but
I wouldn't
right,
ban it
right.
because I'm just saying.
Yeah, and that's where.
Curious.
And
We'll
that's
throw
where.
that on your shoulder.
Yeah, that's where it's like.
It's like a 5K
So it's-
that's a fundraiser.
I mean, yeah. I mean, you could argue that they're making money, right?
Mhm.
But then I would say that the fact that it's a community event. I mean, there's hardly going to be any like community like big event like
Right,
that. That's
right.
not someone's making money somewhere.
Okay.
But the idea is not like if someone posts like, hey, there's a like that's where it kind of because the purpose of that is to say like if it's a pure profit motive for something, whereas you can argue like if it's a community event.
Right.
Just your business.
Okay, so for
Yeah.
example, I have 10 puppies. I'm selling the puppies, and I post
Then
that's
that-
going to be a no-go.
That's gonna be a no-go.
But every year I host a vendor show. It's November 18th at Scholar Academy. If I wanted to post that flyer, then that one would
Yeah,
be.
and that's because that's a notable interest to the community. I think that's where kind of that part of it in section, what was it, 3? Yeah, except if it's as notable. Oh, it's section 3.2, cultural or educational activities or of general interest to the community. So that could be like a cultural activity, right, or a general interest, and that's where
Yep.
I think
They're
that.
local vendors. It's a community kind of
Yes.
event.
Yeah. So, any other questions or concerns about that section?
I have a quick question, if possible.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm just curious, is there like a bulletin board in the library where people can post
Yes.
business? Okay, there is. Okay.
Yeah, it's right as you walk in, right before you go through the gates thing. There's right on your right. We have a section for library sponsored programs. Then we have another section on the wall that's for community stuff. Okay, section 4.0 is special area displays. So special area displays, tables, shelves, and cases are located around the Tooele City Library and are present to highlight and promote library resources, services, and programs. These usually have a prominent theme with a sign showing that it is a special area display. A book that is placed for display on a shelf or that is on a one-book display stand on a shelf or on top of a shelf is not considered a special area display. So if the book is just simply on top of the shelf it's supposed to be on, or if it's just a one-book thing, that's not a special area display. A special area display, it's like it has a theme, like there's books there placed with purpose. It's not just taking a book out from the bottom and putting it on the top. Or obviously if like patrons move books around, right, that happens, that sometimes patrons will do that. And be like, wait, how did this book get here? And stuff like that. So, 4.3, the Tooele City Library maintains complete control over the content of special area displays and as an extension of library resources and services. The library director or assigned staff member may invite individual organizations to display materials in order to enhance a library program or materials. I know we partner with like the health department. We'll do like a health book theme or like something like that to kind of help with those kind of things. We wouldn't do it for a for-profit venture, right? Only for those kind of community partnerships. Items or library resources for display must adhere to the following criteria. Items or resources for display should correspond to the area of the library where the display is located. Adult or Y items or resources should not be displayed in the children's area or vice versa. Keep them to their different sections. Highlights or stimulates use of a library resources, relates to or complements a library program, is of cultural, historical, or educational significance, or relates to significant events in the community. 4.5, the library will not display the following materials or resources: advertising or promotional materials of a profit-making or commercial entity or for the sale of items. Partisan political, election, or campaign materials or resources promoting a specific candidate, issue, or party. Obscene materials as defined by the State of Utah Code, and materials or resources that are not compliant with library purposes and policies. And then 4.6, the library director makes the final decision on materials or resources in special area displays. Special display areas, sorry. Special area displays are generally changed every 4 to 6 weeks, give or take. Questions, concerns, comments? So then this is where, referring to the lady's concern, right, is there's an interesting discussion to be had that would probably take a lot longer than we need to tonight, and this might be something a good topic for next board meeting to discuss. Okay, what does that mean, right? Because this is the policy proposed, and like I said, I based this off of what Salt Lake County has in their policies and procedures. For example, is that display, the Banned Books Week display, is that a partisan political display or is it not, right? And that's where I think there's an interesting conversation to be had there. I don't want to necessarily go too deep into that today, partly due to time, but also just because right now there's just simply zero guidance. There's no policy. It would be to the whims of the director, and that's what's gotten some directors at other libraries in trouble, is where they made decisions about different displays with no policy in place, and so then that led to arbitrariness and lots of problems. So I think it's worth having that discussion, especially because that's your guys' role as the library board, to kind of discuss, like, okay, what kind of displays are appropriate in the library, and then as the library director, my job would be to take your advice and your thoughts on those matters as I make those decisions. Because, right, it's all up to interpretation, right? As a guy who listens to Supreme Court oral arguments for fun, it's always, what's the definition of X, right? And one person will say Y, another will say Z. So that's kind of my thoughts on that, and that's why I wanted to have this policy in place, is because if we didn't have a policy, there's a lot more room for problems. Are there any questions or concerns to discuss about it tonight? Any suggested wording changes or anything like that?
I think my only concern would be is not having the discussion and approving policies before the discussion. But we won't meet for another quarter, is that correct?
Yeah, so we're planning on January. So if we want to have that discussion now, we totally can, is related to the wording of it. So yeah, so if we want to discuss it now, that's totally fine, and that's you guys are the board voting on this, and so if you want to make changes or we want to talk about those definitions of the words, that's totally fine. That's what we're here for. I was just suggesting it could take a long time, and you're right. If we want to postpone voting on this policy and maybe just have an in-depth discussion just about this, we could totally do that. I was just thinking, put something into place and we can discuss those things, because we can always change the policy if needed. But it's up to you guys as the board. I'm just presenting it, and I'm just cognizant of the time and that kind of thing. So if you guys if we want to dive into that, of whether that display or other potential displays that happen throughout the year or that other libraries have done, that of how I would interpret this document or how you guys would interpret this, we can definitely have that discussion if you'd like.
I don't actually have a problem with the policy itself. Sorry, hold on.
No, you're good. I mean, that's why we need to have these discussions.
Sorry, I just want to make sure that we're not putting a policy in place before discussing something that the public came to us And then, but I also don't want to wait a whole quarter before we approve this.
Yeah.
And I guess if you guys want to put the policy in place and then discuss it and make changes the next quarter, I'm okay with that. I'd prefer not to, but I'm okay with it.
So I guess, are there any changes that any of you would suggest? Like, I mean, I think that's the question right there. Are there any that you would suggest, Berna, or is there any language in there that you think?
Well, I guess the problem is I read this over today, and I was okay with it, but listening to her, now do I need to look at it in a different eye?
So
personally, I don't have a problem with the display. I'm sorry, but that's just my opinion.
Well, and to kind of add my thoughts on it as well, I dislike the wording of the display because they're not actually banned books; they're challenged books. If for next year, but I also didn't want to rock any boats until I had a policy in place, so I let the staff do what has been done in previous years. I would probably, and I'm not committing myself to anything, but I would lean more towards changing the name of the display to say challenged books, not banned books, just because I disagree with that. They're not banned, they're just challenged. And I also don't think that it qualifies as a partisan political display, because theoretically To Kill a Mockingbird is...
That's the one I was going to point out.
Yeah, like To Kill a Mockingbird, Mein Kampf.
Harry Potter,
right? Any of those books could have theoretically been on that display.
Yeah.
Now, I don't want to get into a deep discussion of the politics of the American Library Association. I think that's a whole other can of worms we could talk about. But as far as the concept of display, I don't think it violates the policy in and of itself, aside from that wording change that I would recommend making. Say it's a challenge book display, not a banned book display. But
Can I just ask a question?
yes.
Whenever this, what was it, the American Library Association?
Yes.
Are we a member of that? Do we have to uphold what they do?
So we don't have to. So they're just an advocacy organization. They're not a governing organization anyway. They just advocate for libraries on a nationwide scale. You guys can do some more investigation into them. The library in the past has paid dues to the American Library Association, not in the last year. And it's on an individual basis. Like if a staff member wants to participate in that organization, they can do so. I don't plan on doing so personally, but I'm still new. I'm only 4 months into this, so I'm still learning as I go with how all that works. But yeah, does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think the policy that you have here deals with the program of how to resolve it. I think it covers it. That's more of what the content is that she's concerned about.
Yeah.
So
And
if you go through this policy, you will resolve that issue.
And I would also then say to her, like, I get that you think that book isn't appropriate for your kid, and I probably would think the same thing. I haven't read that book, but based on her brief description of it, assuming it's accurate, I also would not want my kid to read that book. But I would also, I pointed this out to her in the email that I sent, was this display was not in the YA section, it was not in the junior or the kids, it was firmly in the adult/DVD section. So it was not in any of those other areas. If it had been in any of those other areas, I think that her concerns are 100% valid. That's why I put in here that displays of adult-themed books should be in the adult area, or vice versa, right? I pointed that out, and then also it's like, she did what you're supposed to do. We are not the parents of these kids, right? It's up to the parents to monitor their kids' access to books and what they're getting from the library. It is not our responsibility. In the collection development policy, there's several paragraphs that state that it is the parent's responsibility to police it and to monitor what their children are reading or viewing from the library.
Who decides what?
and in my opinion, this is a good opportunity for a parent to have a discussion with their child.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean they have to read the book to them or check out the book. If the child had a question, then, that's the parent's responsibility to have a discussion with them. I mean, it's a part of life.
The flag doesn't have
staff after a mass shooting explaining my kindergarten or what it was.
Yeah,
And it was
right.
here at the library, I'd come in and go,
Yeah.
raise the flag.
I think
Like,
it's more of an issue of censorship and content.
Yeah.
So
And-
this is different. This is talking about
Displays specifically, yeah.
I agree with Berna about it opening up a good dialogue with your kids, that this is an opportunity for that. I wanted to know who decides what's in the special area displays. Is that
So
left
it's-
up to library staff?
That's ultimately my responsibility, and that's why under section 1.1 it says the library director may authorize staff to assist. So how it's currently working, I'm still figuring out my role, right? I mean, I'm 4 months in, so I'm feeling pretty good now, almost 5. But like, they'll pick out the books, but I do go and like look at review the display, or like they'll give me heads up. Here's the displays that we're planning, and I'll get that. I've set up a once a month meeting with them to be like, hey, what are the displays? What's the purpose of it, kind of thing. And most of them are like, here's all the books about the Old West and stuff like that. Like, so that's how it's ultimately my responsibility. If there's a display that doesn't meet this policy, then I need to take care of it. Any other questions or concerns or comments about this one?
I'm actually okay with it, based on what the discussion has been, so I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Berna. Can we get a second to that motion?
Second.
Thank you, Melody. Let's get a vote. Everyone in favor, say yay.
Yay.
Any opposed? All right.
Okay.
I'm so sorry. I have to go.
Okay,
My daughter's been waiting for 45 minutes.
I'm sorry. So,
So that means I now have to do it.
do you mind?
Here we're supposed
Do you want us to wait to do the community reading room policy till next time, or do you mind if we?
No, please, go ahead.
Okay. So we note that Crystal Ford has to exit, and I do apologize, everyone. I'm hoping all future meetings will be a lot shorter than this, but we just have one more, and then we're done. We're almost there. So on the community reading room policy, the Tooele City Public Library provides 2 reading rooms and 1 community room for organizations or individuals to reserve for social, cultural, or civic, or educational purposes. The Tooele City Library provides these rooms to meet library program and event needs as well as the public's needs. This policy is in place to ensure that these rooms can be used to attain the goals outlined in the mission statement. Reservation requests will be reviewed by the library director, who operates within the framework of policies approved by the library board. Under the direction of the mayor, the library director may authorize staff to assist. So the terms and conditions of room use. I guess, because everyone already read this, do I need to go through it word by word? I guess I could have said that an hour ago, but.
I read it.
Okay. So essentially, it's just to ensure, like, it's a lot of this I pulled directly from the Salt Lake County Library, right? They have a ton of reading room. They have a ton of rooms. They have like event halls. So I trimmed out stuff I didn't think was relevant, but I kept thinking, what if in this edge case X happens, right? So that's why it's a little long. But to note the big things is like basically they're responsible for it. If it's an outside group, they reserve it. They can't hog the room. They can't sell stuff out of the room. They have to provide adequate supervision of minors. And then I do clarify, so one thing I want to point out is in 2.18 and 2.19, that if it's an outside group, that the minor access policy does not apply for the duration of that event, as long as the applicant is providing sufficient adult supervision. However, if it's like the reading room, if like I'm an adult and I have my 14-year-old daughter who's studying for a test for school, if I reserve the room for her and she has a pass, I don't have to be there with her in the room. However, I'm still responsible for any damages or things that my daughter were to commit while in the room.
But that's the same whether she's in the room or in the library.
Yes,
right?
exactly, yes.
Mm-hmm.
That this is just further clarifying that you can leave a minor with a pass, so under the age of 10, still no. But with a pass, can use the reading rooms without being under like direct supervision. The community room, yes, you have to always have direct supervision. I didn't feel comfortable with having unattended minors in this room. And in the reading rooms, we can see through the glass, so if there is an issue, we can clearly and quickly address that. Any questions, concerns, or issues with this policy?
On 2.9, you referenced the internet and computer use policy. I assume that's in place.
All right, that's a separate policy, yes.
Okay, but we haven't looked.
Yeah, that's, I'm not, there's not any changes with that
Okay,
policy. So
all
it's,
right.
it's on the website, you can review it.
Okay.
Yeah. Any questions, concerns, or comments with this policy? Okay. All right.
So, do I,
Yeah.
can I have a motion to approve the Tooele City Public Library Committee and Reading Room Policy Draft?
I will motion to approve.
Okay, Crystal Larimore has a motion to approve. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
What's your name?
Julie.
Julie has seconded. All those in favor of approving the Tooele City Public Library Committee and Reading Room Policy Draft, say aye.
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 Do we still have everybody on the call? Did we lose anyone? Let me look.
I'm still here.
Oh, no, I.
Melody's still here too.
Okay, you guys are all here. Okay, just making sure.
So everybody said aye?
Any nays?
Yes.
Okay.
Any nays? Okay, it passes.
Okay. Whew. Thank you guys. I know that was a marathon, but got through it. The only last item on the agenda is just the meetings of our, the minutes, sorry, of our previous meeting where there, I guess, sorry, this is technically, you should, is there any, if there's anything that needs to be changed? Does anything look on the minutes of the meeting, does anything need to be changed or does it all look good?
None of
Look
us
good.
were
I
here.
read
Yeah, I know, none of you agree, but I guess the people on the call, are there any issues with the minutes from last meeting?
No, it looked fine to me.
Good.
So
So we just
get a-
vote, we have to vote to approve the
Yeah.
minutes.
So can I get a vote to approve the minutes from the last meeting? I guess it was September 21st, 2023.
I'll make the motion.
And who's that?
Berna.
Berna.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Oh, no, yeah, do I have a second? Nobody likes the minutes?
I will second it. I was not present, but they look good.
They look, okay. So, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? No nays? Okay.
Okay, minutes are
Who
approved.
seconded that?
Crystal Larimore.
Thanks.
Sweet. And then before we make a motion to adjourn, I just want to note the next meeting we have is for January 18th. So during the last meeting, we voted, or the board voted that we are moving to a quarterly meeting on the third Thursday of January and then May, and then we'll reevaluate for the fall and winter, because I think an October meeting is probably best to not fight with November or December holidays. So for now, at least next meeting, we tentatively have it January 18th. Barring any unforeseen circumstances, I think that'll be our next meeting here at the library. So,
I'm
Is there a
sorry,
vote?
did you say January 18th?
18th, the third Thursday of January.
So we're gonna go to the third Thursday now?
I thought it was always the third Thursday.
Oh, I thought it was the fourth. Sorry.
We switched to the fourth this month because last Thursday was UEA weekend, fall break, so we didn't want to fight with
Got it.
that.
All right, my bad.
You're good.
Okay, can I have a motion to
Adjourn.
adjourn?
Y'all just want to stay here till
Motion.
9? Okay.
Anybody second the motion? Oh, who was that said
That's
that?
Melody.
Melody, thank you. Anybody seconds the motion?
I'll second.
Judy, right?
Julie.
Julie, sorry, I seconded. Okay, so all in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
Any-
Aye.
Any nays? Okay, then we are adjourned.
Okay. Thank you all so much.